is a special podcast presentation from 700WLW.com. This is Doc Thompson on Demand.
All right, I put the baby up there. Meet the baby. Just go to my blog, 700WLW.com, and you can see the pictures of this freak. No, the guy's freaky. You're living your life as an adult baby. You got to screw loose. You're a freak. No, I support his right to be a freak, and I probably wouldn't even call him a freak. Just go about your business. But I'm going to call you a freak when you're on SSI. You're taking money because of your freaky ways. But go there and see it. You got to see the guy in his giant penguin-clad onesie. While you're there, you can also check out the Capture the Cruise video. There's a bunch of pictures up there of Lance and I. But there's also a video collage of our experience that day, including I still can't believe it. We were downtown on Saturday, and I stumbled across a sign promoting that an artist is going to come to town. And when I say artist, picture me making the little quotation marks with my fingers, because I think that's giving the guy a lot of credit. A musical performer. That's giving him a lot of credit. But he's going to be in town this weekend, and you can see my reaction when I see the sign. I'm, what? Who the hell's paying to see him? That's the video and the pictures right on the main page of 700WLW.com. Rich Hoffman joins me now from No Lakota Levy. There were some happenings and going-ons with the school board Lakota last night. Hi, Rich.
Hey, how you doing? Yeah, there were storm clouds brewing over Lakota in more than one way.
You had the actual storm clouds because of the inclement weather, right?
Oh, yeah. It was interesting. You know, last night was the night that the school board accepted the contract that the teachers union accepted Friday night. So they all got together and I guess congratulated each other on a job well done, saving $2 million out of projected increases that they had been trying to raise money for the levy on. And in the middle of the whole thing, it was very festive. It was the most, most of these meetings are very contentious, and there's a lot of anxiety. But there was a party atmosphere. They were singing songs, and they had a band in there playing parody music. It was to start off.
Wait a minute. Was this an official school board meeting, or what was this?
Yes, it was. It was an official school board meeting, but the relief valve that the teachers union actually moved a little bit. I mean, a little bit, and gave the management, which is the school board, a little bit of room to negotiate. Was such a relief that they were playing music and everything. It was crazy. And then that's when the storm hit. And then we all, with all the, all of us being contentious with each other, had to kind of gather together in small little spaces and because it was tornado.
Oh no.
Yeah, Channel 19 was there, and they had the weather map up, and there was some Doppler activity that could have formed into a tornado rather quickly, and it was all headed right for the building. So that happened in the middle of all this. So it was exciting.
Rich, I grew up with four siblings. I still have four siblings, three of them sisters, and the closest sister to my age was 4 years older than me. She and I would fight, as you can expect. We argued quite a bit. And my folks used to have this, my mom in particular. She used to do this thing that if we started arguing, sometimes she would make us hug. Oh, do you know how awful that was when you're arguing with somebody like, yeah. That's how I picture you guys sequestered into this small confining space after there's been so much bad blood during these debates.
You've got it. It's almost as if God opened up in the sky and forced everybody to get together and sing Kumbaya. But I don't think there'll be anybody swapping spit in the shower anytime soon.
Nothing like that's going to happen, huh?
No, but there was definitely some breaking of the bread for at least a moment. They projected that this move by the teachers union, and I can't help but regret that this wasn't done like 2 years ago, because we'd be operating with a surplus right now instead of trying to just toe the line. But it was interesting to hear that we're actually talking about running in the black, which is something I hadn't heard before. During the storm, after the threat passed, I went outside, and the acting superintendent went out with me, and also the treasurer, who was pretty sharp. Now, she was definitely one of those people that we're looking for our superintendent search. Ron Spurlock has stepped in and done a good job, I think. And then they hired this treasurer who was pretty sharp and the kind of person you kind of expect to find ways to, just do something besides ask for more money. I mean, anybody can do that. But, they had a private conversation with me outside, and we, I was encouraged by what I heard.
Well, I wonder.
Where that goes from here.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. But I'm wondering then if you're saying at least at first glance they're sharp, or either one of them, a real candidate to be the superintendent down the road, and maybe you could have pocketed or saved the 50,000, 70,000? How much did they spend?
Oh, yeah. Well, even that, I mean, you can't say that now because you've already spent the money.
Right.
But I think Ron, a lot of the atmosphere was done because Ron Spurlock kind of brought a leadership role into the whole thing, and he's the one that organized the music and to create a fun atmosphere. People were actually smiling at the beginning of this thing, and I know the TV cameras were a little let down because they wanted to see some fights. But I wanted to see some of that. But Ron did a good job of I think he stepped into the leadership role excellent. I mean, he, like I said the last time we talked, he's cheaper than a $300,000 superintendent, and what are you going to get that's better? You have to find a way to deal with your budget, and you still have to find a way to provide an excellent school system. But there was one speech last night where the pro-levy people are already starting to kind of put their position out there. And they gave a speech about the community not supporting them and doing that kind of thing. And it bothered me because they forget that a lot of us, our tax bills are $3,000 to $5,000 every single year that we pay on our property tax. And that's hardly a community that doesn't support their local school. And that's very arrogant to even suggest such things. We're providing for a hell of a school, but you can't just keep asking for more. So finally the teachers union backed off a little bit, and just that little bit of relief was enough to cause a party, a festive atmosphere that everybody was very, very happy. But I'll say this. You and I have talked about this a lot. I'll say that the only reason the teachers union even gave a little bit is because they have their eye on the larger prize, which is defeat and repeal the S.B.5 this fall. They're giving a little bit now so they can retain that, and they want to show through their campaign strategy over the summer and the fall that they've given a little bit and that SB5 isn't necessary. So it's kind of an illusion. I don't really think that all the festivities were I don't think they were accurate, but it was kind of nice for a change at a school board meeting.
All right, so let's talk about the particulars. The teachers agreed to get rid of the step increases that would come with seniority, but the ones if you increase your education level as a teacher, right, you would still get an increase.
Yeah, if they still go and get a master's degree or a doctorate, they still get those projected increases based on that. But based on when the treasurer sat down and looked at the numbers and what you save, and consider how much impact that is. If you're looking at a spreadsheet in an Excel and you're looking at all these salaries and you're looking at projections and you're trying to figure, okay, well, all these steps are going to kick in at this time of the year, and this is where we're going to have this is where we operate in the red. $2 million what you save just in projected increases. After they went and said that we have this freeze last August, which wasn't really a freeze because the step increases are still in place. That's that invisible little specter that eats all these school systems up, is that those step increases. And that's what one of the campaign issues of SB5 was, so we can eliminate that and control those costs, because they're the things that put everybody over the top. But as far as the particulars, yeah, that's still in place. But apparently a lot of the people at Lakota are already carrying master's degrees, so you can kind of project a little bit that you're not going to incur too much of a further cost with that imposition.
Right.
That's an unforeseen calculable cost that they can kind of predict they won't have to deal with because so many have the higher degrees.
So the $2 million in savings, though, that is savings of what the increases would have been with the automatic seniority increases.
Precisely. That's really all it is. It's nothing more than projected increases that would have incurred. And that's why they throw the levy out there, and we all say, wait a minute, we're already paying a lot of money in tax. It is affecting our real estate values because it makes it unattractive. People want to live in a good school district, but they also want a house they can afford. And if your tax bill is, of course, too high, it's already unattractive to a potential buyer. So,
yeah. Cost, when you go and buy anything, cost is one of the things, but you also want value. So it's always, for all of us, balancing cost versus value.
Sure.
You got it really cheap, but what is it really worth? Or you know what I mean? That's always the trade-off.
Yeah, that's what we're fighting for. That's what we've been fighting for all this time is, we expect to retain an excellent school district. There's no excuse to go backwards and become some kind of, backwater school district that's not going to be accredited and have any value to any college institution across the country. Lakota is expected to, when you spend that kind of money, and I told you $3,000 to $5,000 is what all of us pay. Every house in the Lakota district has to fork that out. And if you're a guy like me, it's a long-term resident, my kids are already grown. I'm going to be paying that money as long as I live in the district forever. Just because, if I spend that money on like a vacation to Walt Disney World, I could take my family to a really nice vacation with that kind of money. I'm giving it to the school system because I expect quality and value, not to always have you ask for more and more and more and more and more.
How long is the deal? How long is the current contract that was agreed upon? 3 years. So there will be no seniority increases for the next 3 years? Is that how it is?
That's what they're saying. That's what they agreed to for the next 3 years. And apparently, and then there was a guy that does a lot of good work that is, a guy who looks at all these numbers, and he came up and said, basically, how can you sign a contract when you don't have the money, looking out in your 5-year forecast? And the answer was, our treasurer is looking at the numbers carefully. She's not just saying, go get a levy, go pass a levy. You can see they're tempted to just say it and ask for it, but they know the community is been against it. And it's really kind of they've now been given some light at the end of the tunnel to work with as far as numbers go. So the school board president came out and then said we're going to be operating in the black at least for this year, where they thought they were going to be projected with a huge deficit. And she probably didn't want to come out and say that, but that's how happy they were to even have some light to look at. And again, that's just sad that, when you look at the school board, we've ripped on them pretty good on this program for good reasons, but their hands are tied. I get a lot of letters from people that say, well, you school board this, and you should run for the school board. Do you have any answers? It's easy to complain. And they can only negotiate 15% of their costs, which is, the buses and all those kinds of things, because of state laws that the OEA negotiated to say that you can't touch these wages and benefits, and they just go up and up and up and up, and there's no control mechanism. Just like if you had a business, you and I could control our costs if we were running a lemonade stand, and we didn't want to pay the little girl to pass out lemonade, $2 an hour. If she had a union and she said, well, you're going to pay me $10 an hour, and then we couldn't afford to deal with her, you can't do that at a school. You're forced to just take it, and that's insane.
Well,
that's why S.B.5 has been floated out there.
Right, SB5, and that's the reason we talk about school choice and these other things that you're right. At this point, it is limited what they can do. So, yeah, we still need to address that, and what we can control, but we also need to look at the bigger picture and do something down the road. I mean, we really need a revamping of education.
Oh, yeah. This is just a quick Band-Aid that solves your immediate financial crisis, so we don't end up like in the situation that little Miami's in.
It's interesting, though, Rich, when I hear you talk about the contract, though, I still have I just got an odd feeling. First of all, they agreed to no step increases for 3 years. I got to believe that they're going to come out with something or want something else. You're right. Maybe they're just waiting they're putting their efforts in SB5.
Yeah. Well, they're
something.
They're going to put on a friendly face. Everybody was friendly last night. They're going to put on a nice friendly face until they get SB5 repealed, because they figure they have the numbers and
they probably will.
And they really think that they can push that together. It really depends on who shows up and votes. But if you take the edge off, then you take away the people like me, or people who are dead set against. Well, maybe not people like me. I'll vote against it, or I'll vote for it anyway to have the SB5. But the people who are on the fence, who will have forgotten all these contentious debates over time, they're hoping to take that edge off. That's why it's only a 3-year deal. They need about 3 years to get themselves recalibrated, but they're going to come back and ask for more. You have to have a long-term fix in the future.
Right.
This just solves your immediate problem. But every district, there was a lot of discussion last night, a lot of boohooing, which I have a hard time sitting through. That's why I don't go to every single meeting, because it just drives me insane to hear the boohooing. But when you're a government entity, and they are a government entity, there's a lot of emotion attached to like employees and positions, and every time they create a new position, it's every time you drop one. If it is a janitor, and you don't really need the guy, there's a lot of, it is a sad thing to do that, but when you're in management, you have to do those kinds of things, have those discussions, and say, well, do I need this person or not? Well, no, I don't, so we'll eliminate it. There was a lot of positions eliminated through attrition and retirements, and then there was like, well, we have to replace them. Why? Like you said, we have a superintendent right now that's acting. He's an assistant superintendent, but he's doing a fantastic job. He's brought the community together in a unique way, and he's cheaper than what you're looking for. So why don't you make it him and then not fill the assistant superintendent attendant position?
That's a good point.
You got to think.
That's a good point.
That's
all right.
the way you've got to think.
Rich Hoffman from No Lakota Levy, I appreciate your update and insight on what happened last night.
All right.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. I have a link to his information there as well. Got some other local school district information. Northwest teachers agreed to a 3-year salary freeze as well. That's a contract with their teachers. New Richmond teachers agreed to a 3-year freeze. Madeira School Board is going to vote on a levy in November. So there's lots of little things going on. We'll talk about some, get some of your calls coming up, as well as at about 11:33, about 11 minutes from right now, the president speaks Irish. No, not Gaelic. He speaks English with an Irish brogue. It's all coming up on 700 WLW. Fox 19 Storm Tracker forecast for meteorologist Frank Marzullo. Partly cloudy, thunderstorms this afternoon. Could see them between 1 and 7. High around 78, partly cloudy tonight, low 64. Warmer, muggy afternoon, severe thunderstorm risk tomorrow, and a high around 82. 66 right now at 700 WLW. All right, some other local school information dealing with unions and contracts and whatnot. Kind of similar to Lakota. Northwest Local School District, the board approved a 3-year contract with the teachers union that freezes salaries. It applies to the base salaries and also the step increases. That's probably a good thing. Interesting that the vice president of the Northwest Association of Educators said that the union understands the district's financial situation, and he said, we want to work with the district. In the past 10 years, 7 of them have been without salary increases. We get it. Teachers have made sacrifices to work with the district and the community. We will continue to work hard in the classroom. We hope the community recognizes that. And I think they really do. However, although you're working with the community, that's what the rest of us have already gone through. In the private sector, we didn't have that choice. In fact, it's been even worse than not having salary increases, not getting bonuses or anything like that. Many of us lost our jobs completely, and many of us had to take salary decreases. So, while you recognize that, you're doing truly the bare minimum. I'm not chastising you. Good for you. You agreed to that. That is the bare minimum. It's not me being rude. It's not me not understanding what you're going through. I simply want you to understand what the rest of us are going through in the private sector. And it's not about just sticking it to the company. The economy is bad, and you recognize that. Deer Park news. They're going to, it looks like, retire and rehire 4 teachers and also an administrator. The Board of Education has a public hearing, had a public hearing to discuss the retirements of some of the teachers, and then they'd rehire them at a lesser price, kind of the double dip thing. Yet Madeira schools, there looks like they're going to go ahead and get that operating levy on the ballot in November. It'll be a $6.9 million. So if you have a $100,000 home, $210 a year. That's just for the $100,000 home. It's getting tough. New Richmond teachers agreed to a 3-year pay freeze as well. That seems to be the standard. 3 years, I just can't believe they're going to give that up for 3 years. I think they're just waiting to see what they could come up with S.B.5 and putting their efforts into that, and it probably will be repealed. It probably will get on the ballot, and it probably will be repealed. That doesn't mean it was the wrong thing to do. It was the right thing to do. It's just people fought against it, and they will realize it's the right thing when we continue on this path and the pain gets worse, and we have to have a greater discussion 5-10 years down the road. Doc Thompson, 700 WLW.